I'm Rashelle Debolt. My club is the Noble Science Academy of Northern Nevada, and I fence in Reno, Nevada.
Gotcha. So you were in a lot of tournaments
Yes.
this weekend. So could you listen to our audience?
Yes, I did the cutting tournament, saber, women's longsword, the experience longsword, and the tournament of champions.
Gotcha. So a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just go by chronological order, and then we'll just probably go through all the tournaments one by one.
Okay.
Right. So saber. I mean, I obviously already know like most of the answers to these questions, but which sources do you study out of, or like your school for saber?
I primarily do broadsword and then apply it to saber, so I use Roworth primarily.
Yeah. And Roworth basically just says it's like broadsword, saber, and spadroon, right?
Yeah.
You can use it for all three.
Yep.
So that's probably the most popular source, I think.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, either that or Angelo, I think, is the most popular for saber, for military saber at least.
Yeah, I do a little bit of Page as well.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I don't think I've ever read that one.
Yeah.
So besides the sources, like how would you describe your personal style in saber?
I think very defensive. With the broadsword, you have that basket, and so you're used to being able to use it like a shield.
Yeah.
And I kind of adapt that into saber with really trying to train that hand turn to protect
I also
my
feel
hand.
like you're like an expert in the attack and opposition.
Yeah.
Right, in broadsword. I feel like that's like probably your best serving attack.
Try to be able to parry while I'm attacking at the same time.
Yeah. Like almost like the perfect counter punch.
Yeah.
Right? Is that attack?
Yeah.
And how did you feel about that tournament in general? Did you? Was there anyone you wanted to fight that you didn't get to? Any really good matches you had, or like who was your favorite like going into that tournament? Besides yourself, of course.
I think in general, this Combatcon doesn't have a lot of people in it that I was
Expecting?
looking for. But I think I fought well in all of my matches. I'm really bad with names, so I can't remember exactly who I fought, but there were a couple in there that were really good fights.
Yeah, even people that have been in HEMA for like decades. Like there's so much new people. Like it's so hard to remember like everyone's name. So that definitely makes sense. So the next one is the Women's Plus. So which sources did you work out of? And this will just apply to all the longsword tournaments because I'm assuming you're going to apply the same sources. And
I do Lichtenauer primarily, and then a little bit of Fiore. I've studied Herrenfeint and Wallerstein as well, but those are very minimal in my training.
Gotcha. And then your personal style, how would you describe that in longsword?
I'm a counter fencer, so I like to bait someone into doing something I can parry and attack into. So as you were saying, that attack in opposition.
Perfect. Yeah. So very setup based and things like that, right? A lot of mind games.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that tournament was yesterday.
Yes.
So how did you feel about that?
Pools went really well. I was a little bummed about elims. The first time I got out in elims, I think, ever. So.
Yeah, that was a shame. But sometimes it happens, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that go into like the outcome of a match, like obviously training, how you fought, and then also the judging.
Definitely.
Right. So sometimes if you just have bad luck, right? Like, you don't get what you want. But I'm sure you fenced it really well.
Yeah, and I have a lot going on this weekekend. Still 2 more events.
2 more events, right? 2 more to win.
Yep.
So,
yep.
So that one's going to be actually coming up pretty soon. So the Experience Longsword Tournament. So same questions for that. Besides the beginning part, because we already described like how you do longsword. But fencers, like, do you recognize any of them?
I recognize like every single name in this tournament. So
okay, so this one's the big one for you.
Yeah, kind of fun.
Yeah. Okay, so anyone that you really want to fence, do you think?
I wanted to fence Kai again because he barely beat me last time, but I don't think he's here today.
Kai
Ava.
You fought Kai Ava in longsword?
Yeah.
Oh, like Sword Crush.
Sword Crush, yeah.
Oh, okay. I know Kai's been like out of the fight for a little bit, but I forgot he went to Sword Crush, probably because he used to be on guard. He felt like he should go see his friends again. Yeah, that's interesting. Kai he's definitely not longsword. He's very similar to me, right? Where he doesn't do longsword, he only does rapier, but he uses his rapier in his longsword.
His
so he fights
is
weird.
Really well.
Yeah, that
really
too.
Good.
His footwork's really good. He's probably the fastest feet I've seen personally.
Yeah.
In HEMA.
He just barely got me. I left my hand open at the end, and he got that 1 point lead.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when you fence like weird, like, I'm not saying Kai is weird. He's kind of weird, right? But he's not going to fence like a typical longsword fencer, and that can throw you off, right? And just maybe take a point off of you, and that's enough to lose, right?
Yep.
I knew you fought Andrew Bradford for the gold medal match in Battleborn. That's where you beat him, right?
Yeah.
I knew Andrew's looking for a rematch.
Yeah.
For certain.
I'd love to give it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we tied in our first match together at Battleborn, and then in the finals I won those 2. So.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely respects you a lot, and he's very proud of like his performance, even though he lost to you, right?
Yeah.
He's very happy with how he did.
Yeah, looking at the video, it was really close.
Yeah, he did very well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to do very good too.
Thank you.
And then the tournament champions, from what I understand, it's a single touch tournament, right?
I'm just going to go into it having fun.
Okay,
I recognize
perfect.
all the names on there, so.
Yeah, it's basically invitational,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be really exciting. I'm the only woman fighting in both of them today, so.
Even in the experience, you're the only woman in the experience? Wow.
Yeah.
Gotcha. How many fighters are in the experience, if you remember?
27.
27. Okay. So we had about like a total of maybe 120? No, 115 basically. Longsword fencers. That's a lot of fencers.
Yeah.
Not as much as SoCal, but very, very, very big still.
Yeah.
So now that we've like gone through like more than half of the event, a little bit more than half the event, did you have any highlights of their trip so far?
I think I just enjoyed Vegas a lot more than I usually do when I come to the tournament. That was a lot of fun.
And I'll just ask you some like other questions real quick, like such as your training. Like, what was your training leading up to this event? Like, just from Battleborn to here, what would you say?
Well, 2 weeks ago I actually hurt my wrist, so I stopped fencing 100% for 2 weeks so that I could make sure it healed.
Yeah.
And it is feeling better this week, but I'm still bracing it.
Yeah.
And then since I always take a week off of the tournament, so I really only had like a week of training since Battleborn.
Mm-hmm.
But
So you take a week off of fencing right before the tournament?
Right after the tournament.
Right after the tournament?
Yeah.
Oh, Battleborn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And then I injured my wrist, so it hasn't been a lot of fencing since then. But I do train in the gym a lot as well, so I've been
Keeping
making
active.
sure I do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so a lot of resistance kind of training.
Yeah. And you fought in Saber with that hurt hand.
Yes.
Right? So,
yeah, I was worried about it, but I tested it before it started and felt okay, so.
Gotcha. Yeah. You should be pretty popular for how you were training before too, because you kind of like from the start of your HEMA journey, you kind of like skyrocketed up to like a very, very high level, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to like kind of like, you can give us a whole run through of like what you did, or you can just give like a gist of it, like.
Yeah, so I started like 2 months before COVID, and so I was like doing it a little bit, and then COVID started, and then Mike Martin and I were just spending every afternoon in the park just kind of fencing.
Yeah, and Michael Martin is someone I know as well. He's a personal trainer. He's been fencing for quite a bit now. I think a former bodybuilder as well. So,
yeah.
A very fun guy.
Yeah, so we would just go in the park, and I was still very brand new, and he was way better than me, so we would just have fun. He'd beat me up. We had just had wasters and masks and gloves at that point. So, yeah, and then we got back into the club, and the club became a full business, and we had a lot more classes offered then, and so I started doing other weapons as well as Longsword, and I actually was training for 20 hours a week in sword fighting for a while there.
Yeah,
for
part-time
almost
fencer,
a year.
basically.
Yeah.
Right? Part-time sword fighter.
Yeah, and so I think that much training is what really skyrocketed.
Yeah. Putting in those hours in, right?
Yeah.
And putting in like really quality, hard-working hours, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
We'll definitely make
I was
them
a
super
teacher at UNR, and so with all the COVID stuff going on, I wasn't getting a lot of work, so I had all the time to put to to the fencing.
Which I'm sure you're well, I'm not going to assume, but at least in your fencing journey, you were happy when you could put so much time into it, right?
Definitely. Yeah. It also helped me. I realized I wanted to quit UNR, and I started my own business in that time. So now I don't have quite as much time, but I still get in about 12 hours of fencing a week.
12 hours, that's pretty impressive. So I do about 6, right? Which is still kind of I think above average for most HEMA fencers, right? 12 is really good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it makes you still like that you're like still motivated to do that many hours. You know, it's hard for a lot of people, especially once you get to the high level. You start improving less and less as time goes on.
Less motivation to get in there.
For a lot of people. But I'm sure the gold medals that you get are motivation to keep going.
Definitely. I also just love doing it. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And that's probably the most important part.
Yep.
I'd assume. Okay. Any last comments before we end the interview?
I don't think so.
All right. Thank you very much.
Of course.